There is a game you can play with this painting. It has been going on for 600 years, and nobody has won it yet. The rules are simple. Every object in this room means something. Find them all and you will know what is happening here. At least, that is what we have been told. Look at the room. A man and a woman standing in a bedchamber in Bruges sometime in 1434. Hands lightly joined, rich fabrics, expensive furniture, a small dog at their feet. It looks at first glance like a wealthy couple who commissioned a portrait, and nothing more. But this is Jan van Eyck, and for generations art historians have believed that Van Eyck put nothing in this room by accident. So let us play. Let us look at four things, four ordinary objects, and see what 6 centuries of very clever people have decided they mean. Start by looking up. There, above the couple, hangs a brass chandelier. Elaborate, expensive, catching the light. It holds 6 candle holders, and in one of them, exactly one, a candle is burning. Now stop, and ask the question this painting wants you to ask. Why? It is broad daylight. Look at the window on the left. Sunlight is pouring in, bright enough to light the whole room. Nobody needs a candle, and more than that, nobody lights one candle in a 6-branch chandelier. If you needed light, you would light several. If you wanted to be economical, you would light none. So the single burning flame is not there for light. Someone chose to put it there. And for generations, the answer to why seemed clear. For Panofsky, the scholar whose reading shaped how the world sees this painting, and for the many who followed him, that flame suggested the presence of God, a divine witness burning in daylight, watching a solemn moment. At the time, exchanged vows could carry legal force even without a priest standing at an altar. So in that reading, this becomes something extraordinary. It is God in the room, signing the contract. Elegant, satisfying, hold on to it. But before we move on, look once more at that chandelier, because one flame is burning, and elsewhere, another candle appears to have gone out. We will come back to that. Now look down, all the way down to the floor. There, in the bottom left corner and almost out of frame, is a pair of wooden shoes. Removed, set aside. And over on the right, near the dog, a second pair, the woman's, red, tucked toward the back. Strange things to place so prominently in a formal portrait. Painted by the most meticulous painter in Europe. Who could have left them out entirely? Again, why? And again, the traditional interpretation arrives like a key sliding into a lock. In the Bible, God tells Moses to remove his sandals, for the place where you stand is holy ground. Take off your shoes and the floor becomes sacred. So Van Eyck in this reading is telling us something without a single word. This is not just a bedroom. Something holy is happening on this floor. 2 objects, 2 perfect answers. You can feel how good it feels, the click of a puzzle piece going in. Now watch what happens when we look at the third one. Our third suspect is small, furry, and standing directly in the middle of the evidence. The dog. A tiny lapdog painted with such absurd care that you can count the wiry hairs on its back. It stands between the couple at the very front of the scene, looking straight out at us. And by now you know the game. Why is it there? The traditional answer is the most satisfying one yet. In medieval and Renaissance art, a dog at a couple's feet can suggest fidelity. Faithfulness. It appears on tombs, on portraits, on carvings, the loyal animal, the loyal spouse. So the dog in this reading is a promise. It says, these two will be true to one another. 3 objects, 3 keys, 3 locks opening. Except, there is another possibility, and it is much less romantic. A small companion dog in 15th century Bruges could signal something far more worldly. Leisure, money. The fact that you could afford to feed an animal that did no work at all. So is the dog a symbol of marital fidelity? Or is it the 15th century equivalent of parking your expensive car in the driveway before the photographer arrives? Hold that question, because it is about to get much worse. Now look at the woman. Specifically, look at her green dress, the heavy wool gathered up in front of her, held against her body. And be honest about what you just thought. You thought she was pregnant. Almost everyone does. It is the single most common thing said about this painting, repeated in classrooms and captions and comment sections for generations. The Arnolfini Portrait, you know, the one where the wife is pregnant. But the painting gives us no good reason to conclude that she is. Look at what is actually happening in that fabric. This is a woman's gown of the 1430s, enormous quantities of expensive wool, far more than any body needs, gathered in the hands and lifted to make it easier to carry. Women in contemporary images often gather similarly extravagant gowns in front of the body, creating this same swelling silhouette. You can find it in images of figures who are clearly not being presented as pregnant at all. There may or may not have been a pregnancy in real life. We cannot know. The point is that this shape does not prove one. What we can actually point to is a dress. The baby was supplied by us. Stop and notice what just happened. Your eye arrived at a shape and your mind supplied a story, and you did not even feel yourself doing it. You looked at fabric and saw a life. And if you can do that in half a second looking at a picture on a screen, what do you think 600 years of very clever people have been doing with this room? Because now go back to the dog standing there so faithfully or so expensively. Go back to the shoes on the floor, holy ground, or simply shoes in a room where people take off their shoes. Go back to the chandelier and that single burning flame, the presence of God, or perhaps just a candle, and remember the other one, the one we set aside, because on that same chandelier there appears to be a second candle that has gone out. If a burning flame means the presence of God, what does an extinguished one mean? Here is the strange thing. The problem is not that nobody has explained it. The problem is that it has been explained too many ways, a death and a portrait of someone already gone. A contrast between life and its ending, a marriage custom, or simply a candle burned down in an expensive room. That tiny detail does not destroy interpretation. It multiplies it. The same chandelier can become a wedding chapel, a memorial, a meditation on mortality, or a piece of very costly brass, which brings us to the question we have been circling since the first flame. What if the final clue is not another object in this room, but the way we have been looking at all of them? In 1934, a scholar named Panofsky published an essay about this painting, and it changed how generations would see it. Panofsky was no fool. He was one of the most influential art historians of the 20th century, and what he saw in this room was extraordinary, that Van Eyck had painted a language, that the candle, the shoes, the dog, the mirror, all of it was a system of hidden symbols. And that assembled correctly, they told you exactly what was happening. A marriage, witnessed, certified in paint. It was beautiful, it was rigorous, and it fit. For decades, that reading was the painting. It is why you have heard of the mirror and the dog and the shoes at all. And then, slowly, other scholars began pulling at the threads. Was this a marriage or a betrothal? A memorial, a legal record, or simply a portrait of a rich couple who wanted to be painted well? The gallery that owns it today will not even name its subjects with certainty. Panofsky's key opened the room beautifully. It just turned out there were other keys and other doors, and nobody could agree which one was the front entrance. But here is what I think we have been getting wrong, and it is not Panofsky. The problem was never that these objects mean nothing. Look at this room, the flame, the fruit, the little dog, the shoes set aside. It is not reasonable to say that a painter this deliberate placed all of it by accident. There is almost certainly meaning here. The problem is that we kept demanding that all these meanings lead to one final answer, one room, one story, one key that would unlock everything. We wanted the candle to be God, we wanted the dog to be fidelity, we wanted the shoes to be holy ground, and all of it to add up to a single verdict about what we were watching. And every time a detail refused to click, another key was proposed. But this room may contain symbols without being a cipher. Its objects can carry several meanings at once, the way the objects in your room do. A candle can suggest the presence of God and be an expensive object in an expensive room. A dog can mean fidelity and status and just be a dog somebody loved. A dress can display fashion and wealth, reshape the body beneath it, and still tell us nothing certain about pregnancy. Perhaps we have not failed to solve this painting because we were not clever enough. Perhaps there was never one lock waiting for the right key. We kept looking for a lock. Van Eyck gave us a room. And that brings us back to you standing in front of a dress half a second ago, seeing a baby that may never have been there. Because that is the real trick of this painting, and it has almost nothing to do with 1434. Van Eyck built a room so complete, so exact, so full of ordinary things rendered with impossible care that it performs a remarkable trick. It hands you a world and then waits. And into that silence we pour ourselves, our theories, our certainties, our need for the thing to mean something. 600 years of clever people have walked into this room and found, in the end, something of what they came in carrying. The mirror on the back wall reflects two figures standing in the doorway. Look at it long enough, and you start to suspect that one of them is you.